Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. Hitler faked his death and then escaped. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
Welcome everybody back to the show. Everybody, welcome back. I am obviously one of your hosts. If you don't know me by now, you about to find out. I'm Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, and who am I joined by? A very special guest.
Well, I'm going to go by the new title that a listener proclaimed for me because it used to be Hippie Squatch, but now it's not really fitting anymore. So shout out to Kelly for throwing the name Shane Squatch. So Shane Squatch from Inquiries of Our Reality.
That's a fun name. I do like that. Yeah, everyone should be pretty familiar with Shane. He was on the Magic Mushrooms episode. He's actually joined us for a couple of live specials. So that's why you guys got to keep an eye out on the YouTube. But welcome back. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this. This will technically go to both of our shows, so this should be a lot of fun. And we've dived into Shadow People before, me and Billy. It's a throwback episode from a while ago that me and Billy covered. So we're gonna actually discuss specifically the Hat Man. Before we get into this, I wanted to ask you: have you ever had a shadow people experience?
Dude, I've had a lifetime of shadow people experiences. Not Hat Man specifically, but shadow people in general.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Everyone on the show knows my story. I've told it a million times. And even we're going to release something new on Stranger Podcast, a kind of rant episode that will eventually go to Patreon. And I discussed in detail again my shadow people story. So the fans are probably like, all right, we get it. So I want to hear yours.
Well, I'll try to paraphrase it as quick as possible because, you know, I could easily turn my shadow people experiences into an hour-and-a-half episode all on its own. But basic buildup of the story, I guess, is that I used to astro travel as a kid without realizing it. And every single time I'd come back, I'd get sleep paralysis and I'd see all of these shadow people standing around me, watching me from the corners of my room. Specifically, I would always see this one that was taller than the rest that had green eyes. And like I said, I can elaborate on that a lot more, but that's the basic principle of it. And then I guess my most recent shadow person encounter experience was before I started my podcast, before I knew a lot of shit about like paranormal, like how you're supposed to go about doing things. My girlfriend and I used to go urban exploring, and we went to this abandoned psychiatric hospital.
Is that a sex position?
What was that?
Urban exploring? Is that like a sexual position?
No, like urban exploring, like I mean, you definitely can get into some weird sex positions when urban exploring, but you know, you might end up falling through a floor somewhere. But
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, we went to this. It was like abandoned mental hospital essentially, and you know, we're just going around. I found some cool shit. One of which was a no smoking sign, of course, because you know why wouldn't you want to put that up in your room? And this weird ass fucking hand painted tiki that looked like it was made out of styrofoam. And later on, I figured out that it was more than likely probably some fucking arts and crafts thing that one of the inmates did. That's why it was foam, because they won't give them wood to fucking carve and shit.
And it was still there?
Yeah, and I ended up bringing it home with me because I just thought it was interesting, that and the no smoking sign. And we get home. It's around like 3 o'clock in the morning or so. We go upstairs, hang out for a bit, and then we come back down to get a snack. And I'm standing at the base of the stairs. Gabby goes to walk into the kitchen, and we both at the same time saw this figure that was sitting on the couch in the shape of a human, you know, darker than dark because it was nighttime. It was fucking pitch black downstairs, and we could both visibly see this thing standing there. And she walked right fucking past it and looped around to the other side of the kitchen because she was so like, you know, that state of fear where you don't know how to react. So you just keep fucking rolling. And then we both looked at each other, looked back, and that fucking thing was gone. I was like, all right, maybe I should get rid of these items. Got rid of it and never saw that again in the house. But there's still always that weird lingering when I have my dream experiences that, you know, I'll see him sitting off the distance when I'm experiencing sleep paralysis. But it's been a while since that's happened. It's been at least like, before my son was born was the last time I had sleep paralysis. And that's a whole other fucking story about seeing him before he was born. But we'll save that one for another day.
Oh, yeah. Give me 1 sec. Can you take that away from Charlie?
I was going to say, dude, I thought I heard a fucking dog squeaking in the background. I can't hear shit. It sounds like you're coming out of your other ear, a different microphone. You're off.
Oh, it's good there. I muted myself. I'll fucking 5 minutes in. I'll fucking write that down. Just he loves his squeaky toys, but man, are they fucking annoying.
Dude, I got a water bowl back behind me. As soon as I start recording, dude, my dog will come up and start drinking water, obnoxious as fuck. In the back of a bunch of my episodes, you hear this. Motherfucker.
Yeah, so, you know, the people that are interested in my story and you haven't heard it, go back to the Shadow People episode. I talk about it in great detail. It changed my life forever in the way I viewed reality and what exists beyond this dimension. And I want to say this on this episode that recently I did a big dose of mushrooms, which is nothing new, every 2 or 3 weeks.
Tom doing mushrooms, what?
A fairly big dose. I find, you know, I did microdosing for a bit. I will dose once in a while, like a little doses, but I do genuinely find that I gain more from doing like a big trip. And, you know, I've been plagued my whole life as kind of you were in the same realm of like addiction and maybe being like a toxic person in a lot of ways. And I always felt like I was kind of possessed or had something attached to me. You know, I lived in this house that's probably was haunted, and that's where my Shadow People experience was. And I swore they're like trying to rip my soul out of my body. Like the most frightening experience I've ever had in my entire life. And, you know, most people I would tell in the normal world, you know, would call me crazy. But I know what I experienced. I was fully awake and knew what I went through. And so I was thinking about that when I was on mushrooms, and I was on a pretty strong dose, and you can see like fractals. That's what they call it, I guess. But to me, it's like if you see, and you'll know this, but when you like watch a movie where someone puts on an invisibility cloak, like Harry Potter, or they have some cloaking invisibility thing where you can just kind of see them, like the Invisible Man, even that new movie, where it kind of just you can kind of see them still there. You know how mushrooms are, where there's like 3D objects, but they're like not solid.
It looks like they're breathing. That's probably a better way of describing it. Every single object, every single blade of grass, every fucking tree, everything looks like it's breathing all at once.
It's so weird, but I see like 3D objects like coming towards me, especially on higher doses, and all these weird patterns that like almost look like tribal patterns, and I've seen it in different strains. And then so I try to look past this and to see, and I was thinking about like what has taken hold of me in my teenage years, because I felt like I was possessed. And I swear to God, I saw like demonic faces through the fractals. And I kind of said, like, you don't have a hold of me anymore. You're not able to come into my reality. Because I do think that's possible, is that they take people like me that used to be like me. I've changed my mindset, but they take people who are in a low vibration, a low frequency, and have depressed or they're anxious or whatever. And I've kind of kicked a lot of that stuff out of my life by actually the use of magic mushrooms, changing how my brain chemistry works and how I think. And I could see like it was so weird. Like I swear through all this 3D see-through
through the
imagery,
fucking veil, dude.
It was fucking weird. I've also seen that when I've been on mushrooms, I watch movies. I swear to God that I've seen actors look like fucking reptilians. It sounds crazy, but I've seen it, man.
Or fucking frogs, dude. You see the frog eye face things?
Yeah, it's so weird, man.
Dude, just trying to make a theory on this shit because you brought up the mushrooms thing and it bounced into my head. So obviously your brain operates on a different frequency when you're on mushrooms, like be it a different vibration, something to it. But when it comes into a lot of these like shadow people thing, one of my theories on it is that the reason why they come off all black is because you can't perceive what colors they're supposed to be. Like it's something that's out of our visual spectrum.
100%.
So like, what if when you take mushrooms, you get a little bit closer to that spectrum, and what you were seeing was actually what we would normally perceive as shadow people, but because your brain was operating in a different vibration, you're partly able to make out what their actual appearance was instead of your brain just.
It was wild. It was like I was looking through these 3D objects, because that's what they look like. They look like 3D, almost like gelatinous. Like it's weird, like these weird. And I've seen it before where I've literally seen like it looks like indigenous tribal art kind of patterns, and it's like I can't explain to the people that have never had at least a magic mushroom experience, psilocybin, to be able to explain what it's like on a high dose and the type of things you're able to see. Which is it your own subconscious? Are you connecting to plant consciousness? As I've said before, who really knows? But that shit was fucking crazy. And then I sat there and thought about like all the evil and darkness in the world and the people in power and what really has hold of them. And I truly believe that something demonic, dark, low vibration entities do have hold of the people in power, and they're like puppeting them to use our resources and us. I really do believe that shit. Like I've seen it so many times in my life.
Dude, just for the sake of conversation, I know this isn't Hat Man or Shadow People related, but I got to bring it up just because it's definitely an interesting thing and we're kind of down that path already. Have you ever actually seen somebody's face change in person?
Without being on
without being on anything, like just in person?
I feel like I've seen that. And I feel like I've seen that. I've seen people shift. I've supposedly like some people have seen me shift when I was like incoherently drunk. And when I do think that I had something taking a hold of me when I was like a teenager, where they like my eyes shifted. I heard someone say that to me.
Spirits for a reason, man.
I know something. I know for I used to get drunk and play the Ouija board, dude. Like and just like call upon stuff and see who I could come in contact with. And that's when it started telling me that they're actually beings that were alive and they're not actually dead. And that it started telling me it was like reptilians and stuff. And who knows if that was coming from my subconscious. I'll admit that. But I was like drunk and it would spell stuff out for me and like talk to me. And I've had somebody say that like they saw my eyes and my energy like shift in a moment.
Just to bring up the story that I was trying to bring up too, dude. So back in the beginning of COVID, when everything was first starting to go down, everybody was wearing the masks and shit. This was one of my weirdest experiences I'd say I'd ever had, like in person, like, not possibly being under the influence. Just like, it was just a standard normal day. And it was just a weird ass experience, bro. I was at fucking Myers and, me doing my normal thing. I'm ranting and raving about shit. I'm talking about reptilians with Gabby, dude. And I turn around and there's this lady and she looks at me. And she pulls her mask down a little bit and then she pulls it back up. But in the turn of her pulling her mask down and putting it back up, her face was still like human-like, but it shifted where you could see this pattern in it that was almost like dragon or like reptilian looking. It was
really
fucking weird. And I was ranting about him. So I almost got the impression and I got that state of fear feeling that she was like basically saying, "We're around, shut the fuck up."
That's fucking crazy. I know I truly believe people can call me crazy or whatever, but obviously the fans of both of our shows will have an understanding that this stuff is quite possible. I do think that they exist are they the Orion group or are they the Anunnaki or whatever you want to call them? Because I've read books where a lot of people in ufology, they call them the Orion group because they're from Draco Sacanis, right? So they're in the Orion's belt. And who knows what if this is any realm to do with it. But that's fucking wild, dude. That's crazy. I feel like
that almost make you wonder if like the human form is strictly just a vessel that takes the form of whatever consciousness is inside of it. Like we're almost like our vessel, our body is just like almost like dough in the sense of like it has no facial recognition unless there's like a soul that's in it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
so
that's
it's like whatever the active soul is in the body is what the face starts to structure itself towards, is that energy that's inside of it.
I'm reading Children of the Matrix right now, David Icke's book, and it's just like it is kind of interesting how he puts it about like the frequencies and how they're not actually like shape-shifting a solid into a solid. I even put that in in front of one of my songs of him discussing that. So you can't shapeshift a solid from a solid. It is about like where they actually are in their supposedly physically form as a reptilian, maybe, but that they cast images into our subconscious, into our mind to have you see them as a human. Like there's the famous quotations interview with a reptilian. Her name was Lacerta, and this guy transcribed it and put it like on robot audio text. It's like 2 hours. Listen to the whole thing. It's fascinating if it holds any truth. And she's like, the reptilian chick says essentially like, now that you've seen me in my true form, if I try to cast this imagery onto your subconscious, you'll have a brain aneurysm because your brain is already seen through the veil. You've already seen me for what I am. So I'm not able to manipulate you. It's like, this is all to do with once you see the truth and you start to see through the matrix that you can't you can't go back into it. It's impossible.
just off of that, I almost take it as these things are higher dimensional beings because we're only seeing
crazy.
the aspect that we're able to perceive in our dimension, but in the next dimension up, they're a totally different form. It's almost like the whole idea of fucking angels, that they'll come down
Yeah.
here, you know, and look like they're in like a human form with wings, but you get into the biblical interpretation of an angel and it makes no fucking logical sense in this reality because it's a higher dimensional being. It's like a bunch of continuous like spinning fucking circles with wings and eyes and just it doesn't make any fucking sense in our
That's why I
reality
try
because
to-
we're not
I-
perceiving it right.
A couple of my good friends, and they're like 2 are going to start maybe coming on the show a little bit. And like a lot of people I work with are Christians. And like, but they see through the shit. They don't trust the government. They think that aliens are possible. So I talk to them about like this idea of what all this stuff really is and how, you know, that these things take form of angels and stuff like that. Also like these dark energies. So let's just get into it. Cause there's like, and I do think it would be justified fun. Let's even, you know, down the road to do a rant episode even with Billy, and we can like me and Billy have always wanted to do a rant episode about religion and just kind of go off and dissect it and just see what happens in like a conversation, like a no structure, just go balls deep and talk about what we think about different aspects of religion and stuff.
Dude, I'm beyond down. I've been talking forever that I don't necessarily want to say that any religion is specifically wrong, but I think it's a bigger lens than that, that everybody's looking at everything through one specific lens, through a Christian lens, through a Hindu lens, through whatever. And all of these things, all of these ideas, they transcend human like meaning of like understanding, you know, like to us, it'll never, you're just looking at it through one specific lens. Like it transcends all of it. You have to put all of these books together. You have to put all religions together and realize that it's all just different perspectives of the same fucking shit happening. And half the problem, the biggest battle that you see between people is that they're arguing about, no, this entity is this. No, and this entity is this. And it's all the same fucking
It's
thing.
all the
It's
same
just
shit because
different names for
that's
it.
what he
depending on
got
different
when he's like,
cultures.
my buddy at work's like, you say reptilians, I say demons type of shit. And I'm like, check this out though. It's just in conversation. I'm drinking a beer that's called See-Through because we're seeing through the veil.
Dun, dun, dun. There it is.
All right, so let's get into it. Dark apparitions that reveal themselves while you're sleeping are scary enough, but of all the shadow people that visit you at night, the Hat Man may be the most creepy. And I eventually talk about the Old Hag, which is another kind of shadow person that stands on your chest. We've mentioned in the Shadow People episode and on the Spectrophilia episode, but there's enough info where you could cover it even on a Patreon episode. It's been discovered that there are many different classes of shadow people, and this terrifying man with the hat is amongst them. He's been spotted all over the world. According to people who have shared their stories, the Hat Man has apparently been around for a long time. Fucking weird, man. And this is like, I remember hearing this on Coast to Coast, I think is when I first heard this, because I was like, I used to really listen to a lot of Coast to Coast. And imagine if this image is even real. We're going to be showing some images throughout the episode for the people that watch on YouTube.
If it is real.
If that was real at all, you know how frightening that would be to see that and even capture a picture. To get us into this here, these are supposedly actual shadow people that were caught on camera. And
Just
that's
to throw
like
something in too, because you mentioned the different types, and I have my book out here.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows the different types of shadow people. I'm just going to run through the list real quick. You got the regular humanoid figures, you know, the standard shadow people, which is exactly what you're showing on the screen. You have the Hat Man. You have the eyed being, which is usually seen with red eyes, but for me, in my experiences, I saw green-eyed ones. You have the hooded figure. You have the mist, which is like the exactly as I guess you word it, is it's almost like a mist where it's like a harder to like perceive shadow person. You have the wisp, which are the ones that move really quick off in your peripherals, which are the majority of what people see more than anything are the wisps. Yeah. And then you have the crawlers, which are the freaky ass ones that people see when they have sleep paralysis and they're climbing over your fucking legs and shit. But
that's what I saw. I saw a comment. I didn't say anything. That's crazy. You saw some shadow people with like actual eyes. What I saw was like 6. It seems like smaller shadow people, 6, 7, all looming over me as I was like laying in bed, like looking over at me, just like moving their heads in synchronicity and just staring over me. And then when I went to my door to open it after I went through all this crazy experience on the Shadow People episode, this 7 foot, 8 foot tall figure that had like literally gnarly ass fingers, looked like it was from Insidious. And this was before Insidious even came out.
You mean Darth Maul?
yeah, that character, but just as a shadow, but with a bald head, but like the figure of in that one scene where he's pointing at the kid, it looked kind of like that. And this thing looked down at me. And when I was like walking, so like awake, and it was like the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I've fucking went to jail and had really bad experiences in my life. And that shit scared the living shit out of me. That's crazy because I was just talking about this with Anton, is that when recently at work and when I'm out and about and it's really weird, even sometimes outside, I keep getting this feeling like somebody walks by and then I look and nobody's there. And he said he's having the same thing too, which I thought was so weird. And I was like, what? I felt like I was alone on this, you know? And then I've heard this from other people saying it too. And it's weird.
Actually,
Recently,
I got something to throw into this. Actually, it was about maybe like 2 months or so before I started my podcast. And just so everybody knows, I don't have fucking schizophrenia. This hasn't happened since, but for a good like 2 months, and I was telling my girlfriend about it. The shit was like, I thought I was going fucking crazy, dude. I was hearing voices over my shoulder for a hot minute. Like I'd be outside, like fucking putting my chickens away, and I'd hear somebody go, "Hey," but it sounded like they were like right on my fucking neck doing it. And I turned quick and like check, and nobody was fucking there, dude. And in the process of when this was happening, I kept seeing wisps out of my peripherals. So like, I don't know, man. They're fucking making an appearance. Something's happened. Something is
shifting, man. I can feel it. Like I don't know, like something is, and it's because I think people are waking up and they're starting to see through the matrix. And the first part is surface level, right? Seeing that the people in power are corrupt, and then it starts going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you have the people that are on their lone island by themselves, believing that the Earth is flat. Meanwhile, it's probably a simulation or hollow or all that shit. Cause like I'll never be the person that's totally sold on that, but I will say it could be possible. There's a lot of people that believe it, but I think it's another way of them to get us to infight. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. Same with like all the structure of everything. Because I mean, in all fairness, though, if we are interdimensional beings, if we are able to eventually transcend like what we perceive as reality, then like the shape of any fucking planet is totally irrelevant. And at that point, too, I mean, like you can go into another dimension. And again, we're looking at stuff from like our perspective and our dimension. But these planets could have a totally fucking different shape in the next dimension up. They could be a totally different landmass, totally different structure. 100%. So like, we can fight about it all day. I did a video and it got traction of, I was like, who gives a fuck if the Earth is flat, man? The governments around the world are so corrupt. Let's focus on that first. Let's really focus on like the people in power are evil. They don't have our best interest in their hearts, and they don't even have hearts. They're not even human in my fucking opinion. So like we need to stop infighting and come together. I truly believe that. But what stop are arguing about people? The planet and instead start attacking NASA directly as a group.
Yeah, never a straight answer. Yeah, so for the people that don't know, like it's essentially dark apparitions. Shadow people aren't human, but there's all kinds of theories about their existence, from time travelers to aliens. No one really knows what they are or where they came from. The Hat Man is believed to be one of them, although he is extremely mysterious. The Hat Man is believed to be many witnesses. He's supposed to be like 6 feet tall. And the one I saw didn't have a hat, which is like, and this is a weird one that whatever this entity is, and near the closing of this episode, we'll maybe discuss kind of what we think. But according to creepy stories about the Phantom Hat Man, he appears during times of emotional turmoil or distress and will often observe you as you sleep. Who is the Phantom Hat Man? Humanity may never know, but if he ever pays you a visit, consider yourself special. I don't know if I would consider myself too special for that, but scary.
Special in a different way, my friend.
Yeah, so the Hat Man is said to wear a fedora or top hat, a trench coat, and have glowing red eyes. According to anyone who sees him, or everyone who has seen him, the Hat Man appears as completely dark figure, like other shadow people. The difference is the Hat Man wears a hat, which appears to be like a top hat in some sightings, or a fedora in others. While many people are unable to make out what he is wearing, some report seeing an old-fashioned clothing, a long trench coat or cape, and he always appears to be about 6 feet tall. Weird.
That last picture you showed looks like one of those what are they called? The Black Plague surgeons minus like the mask.
Oh yeah. It's like creepy because these things, if he exists, because it, like, my thing is always like, how are people in the other side of the world seeing this stuff? And you know what I mean? Like, it's always like, how does this guy, I always say that, like, this guy in Brazil gets abducted and fucking anally raped by a reptilian, and then somebody in Russia has the same experience and sees the same thing in the same way. And it's like, is it the social subconsciousness of like the consciousness of one, how we're all connected in some way? Or is it really that like these people are sharing the same experience of different circumstances and encounters with the same beings?
I mean, specifically with the hat stuff, I don't know, man. Like,
He's
hats are
fashionable.
semi-cultural. Like, as
Yeah.
far as like the typical depiction of like a hat
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
it
yeah,
reminds me
yeah.
of like an old like a hat somebody wearing like America or like Europe, for example. So like
Mhm.
it almost seems kind of weird that it's international because those hats aren't necessarily like a popular thing internationally. And I mean, a lot of the theories on these things is that they pretty much will take the form of something that, you know, people might think is familiar so that they don't like scare you off directly right away, even though they're still freaky as hell because they're coming off as a dark figure. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's still, it kind of shows that it's something like almost beyond that if people are
It's
seeing these things
frightening.
internationally.
If I saw this, like we're showing an image for all the auto listeners of like the Hat Man with his like two henchmen, it seems like, and like a sometimes sort of like shadow people mobster. And it's just like for the people that have seen this and experienced this and have like it's wild that I don't know his name, but I think he was a football player. He did ayahuasca, and then the shadow, like the Hat Man, supposedly like followed him home, and he's been like, if I could bring it up, it's weird. I was like, what? And like, well, if I do believe if you have low vibrations, and you are depressed or all the time, and you just sit in a low vibrational state, I do think these things can take hold of you. And at the time where I experienced my thing, I was at the lowest I could probably get, in a long time, and they fed off my energy, and it felt like it too. Um, let me see if I can look this up. Hat Man. Um, Football player. I don't watch sports, but I remember reading the article. Yeah, did
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers see a Hat Man holding a dead rabbit? Aaron Rodgers, which that name does sound familiar. I'm not, people would know I'm not a sports guy at all, but he says he used psychedelics to help erase his fear of death, but he claimed that something followed him back from wherever he was, Peru or whatever. Isn't that weird?
Hat Man is death himself, and he's like, motherfucker, you can't escape death. You better fear me.
Yeah. It's weird though. That was like seeing that, like, because that was coming up during my research too. I'm like, a little weird. The Hat Man's face is usually indistinguishable, but many people have claimed to have seen supposedly glowing red eyes. It's quite freaky. And unlike other shadow people, which the thing I saw did not have eyes, I think that would have scared me even more. They also have been reports that the Hat Man carries a gold watch attached by a chain to his belt and will occasionally look at it. That's weird. Do you think he's like, time's up, motherfucker? You know, I was like,
I mean, that kind of fits into either the death concept or it might fit into the time traveler concept because I know that
Weird.
like the other thing that's pretty popular that everybody knows with red eyes is usually Mothman. And there's a lot of theories with Mothman about how
Interdimensional.
if you ever got into like B theory about how these people discovered these like anti-gravity devices, and when they fly around in them, I guess that they look visibly different, and a lot of like the depictions of them almost kind of fit what the idea is of like Mothman, for example. So I
Weird.
wonder if like this is just like this ability to almost like exist in between like two dimensions, and you know, you have the people that are flying around in the flying devices, and that's where you get these like Mothman type of scenarios, and then you have these people that are just straight like time traveling, essentially using the same type of technology but probably in a different fashion because they're not trying to like fly around with it. And you know, it might come off as being perceived the same way because you're not in either reality. You might be in this like in between point, in between dimensions, where maybe both dimensions are seeing you as this weird half drawn blacked out figure.
That is weird. And like because you're like balls deep into the cryptid stuff as I am with like in the paranormal stuff. We've talked about Mothman, I talked about Juan, we did a Strange Watch episode on it, but like we did it within an hour. I do want to kind of do a deep dive. Deep dives are a lot of fun, and that's what we're trying to do with something different on Strange Podcast is like really like do 3-4 hours on Bigfoot, Mothman, like really dive into every aspect of some of these really famous cryptids or creatures or paranormal events. And I do think you would be the man to have on for
Dude, I could go for hours on
and
Mothman or
Bigfoot.
Sasquatch.
I
And I mean,
know.
Mothman, I could connect that into some UFO stuff. I could connect into some paranormal stuff, some interdimensional shit. There's so many fucking different avenues.
When this comes out, it'll be Pride Month, and it'll be Sassy Sasquatch, and they'll try to market him through corporations. So
Sasquatch is genderless, don't you know?
Yeah, I know. That's so funny. People who claim the Hat Man has attacked them tell stories about being jumped on or like choked and having experience of like it burning in their chest or tingling on their scalps, which I've had I just had it today at work. I get this weird feeling like something's touching the back of my head. I was at a UFO conference years ago. They do it in Toronto now, but it was in this smaller city that I used to live in. And the year before, I talked to this hypnotherapist. He tried to hypnotize me. I was really stoned, and he just made me super relaxed. But I didn't get hypnotized. I don't think I have the ability to get hypnotized, considering I don't fall for fucking propaganda or psychological warfare. But the next year, I talked to his son, and it was a slow Sunday. They were kind of packing up, ready to kind of get their shit going, and so he didn't really care about talking to us and wouldn't charge, because obviously these people have to make money in some regard. As much as Billy was like, if a real psychic existed, they wouldn't charge for it, and I'm like, but they still have to survive. And he's like, no, they would give that as a gift to humanity. And I'm like, you could have someone that has the gift of psychic abilities and be an asshole, so you could have that aspect. But
well, that goes down two avenues though, because if you're doing something that's actually helping society as a whole, then of course don't hold that information back. But if somebody is coming to you and saying, I want to know what's going on with my love life, I want to know what's going on with my job, like that pertains to nobody but that single person. So of course, like you gotta make a little bit of money for your effort, as fucked up as that sounds, because you can't just,
I agree,
like, especially when it's something that's like it's not important to reality at that point. It's just important to an individual. It's almost like, you can make art for the community and do it as like a public thing, or if somebody wants a specific piece of art for their house, like you're not going to do that for free as a public thing. That's like it's like a custom piece.
I'll go in and renovate somebody's house, tape a banana on the wall, and I'll be like, you owe me 50 grand. That's fucking art, dude. But like, and I talked to this guy's son, who supposedly was a psychic. He knew, like, I can't remember what it was. I always forget this because I was just talking about this with Billy. But like, he knew stuff that he couldn't have known. It was like not just generalized shit. There was something that he knew about Chelsea and me individually that was like, how the fuck would you know that? And he told me, he's like, you ever get this like feeling on the back of your head? And then Chelsea's like, yeah, he always does. Like, I used to always get like these weird, someone's touching me on the back of my head, especially when someone trying to probably tell me something important. And he's like, it's one of your guides. And I was like, all right, yeah. And he's like, and I was like, weird. And he's like, it's a monkey. And I was like, why is it a monkey? And he's like, because it fits your personality. and honestly, as strange as that is, I had a monkey on my back, supposedly, according to him. And I suffered from addiction for a very long time, and went through hell and back, and was a toxic person and stuff like that. And I can admit that now. And it's just like, it's crazy that I didn't even think about that at the time of one of my guides, if this is true at all, was literally a monkey on my back because I had an addictive personality. I have had that my entire life.
Realistically, you think that you're looking at it from like the metaphorical example of it being a monkey on your back, but he's actually a monkey on your back swatting away all the bad shit.
Yeah, I know. What if he is like that? It's instead of how in Family Guy where it's like the monkey in Chris's closet, but he's actually like a nice guy. Yeah. Shadow people are said to often do this, to like stand on your chest or choke you. I had a friend that was schizophrenic, and I always thought he was seeing beyond the realm of reality. And he used to walk by churches and hear screaming. And he thought a ghost was haunting him, and he used to choke him in the middle of the night and shit. Weird stuff. And the Hat Man is just happy watching. So he's a watcher, It's like one of those dudes that are at the orgy that doesn't really want to fuck, but he'll stand there and jerk off. Like, this is all I need. I just like watching. Or you ever seen Another Teen Movie?
Yeah, of course.
When the camera guy, and he has the bag, he always has the bag, the floating bag or whatever. Such a weird movie, but it's so funny. And he tends to stay longer than most shadow people, as well. Has been spotted watching people in the mirror, bending over them while they're asleep, or just hanging around the corner with a creepy smile on his face. But it says that you can't really see the depiction of him. So he's just kind of chilling, watching over you. And for the people that have seen him smile, I don't envy them at all.
It's actually just the elites using some type of technology to be able to creep on you when you sleep, because of course they get turned on by weird taboo shit.
Yeah, I could see that. Man, 85,000 children went missing at the border. You think that was by mistake? I fucking highly doubt it.
Watch that shadow person's hand, man. There might be a reason why he's wearing that cloak. If he's coming
That's
off as an
true.
all dark figure, he could be sitting there in the corner just fucking cranking that shit, and you wouldn't even know, man. That's why they come across as dark wearing hoods.
Yeah, this is from supposedly like a jail. And look at both these images. If these are real at all, I couldn't imagine like the chill down your spine after you took these pictures and then looked at them later and was like, whoa.
Dude, I'll have to send it to you after the show. I actually got a pretty weird shadow person picture from that same hospital I was talking about in the beginning of the show. And it's fucking weird, dude. It's like crouched down in the middle of the hallway. And it was my girlfriend just taking pictures on the hallway as we were taking off out of the building. And because that goes into another weird encounter. But yeah, dude, I'll have to send you the picture. I got a pretty decent picture of like a shadow person crouching in a hallway at this hospital.
Yeah. Well, this is why you subscribe to the Patrons, honestly, like for both of ours, because you'll hear like some fun stuff coming in, and there's Stranger Danger, like ran episodes that me and Shane have already done, but there's plans to do more. And like me and Billy keep talking about wanting to do stuff like film, like more stuff, because we did like a paranormal documentary thing that eventually is coming out, but we released it at just our own little thing. And now that we've done it, I want to go to a haunted location. It would be cool for us to meet up because you're not far. We could be able to do things like go to a haunted location, record. I have like USB mics and stuff like that you could plug in your phone. They're wireless, so we can just like talk and discuss stuff while we're doing it. It would be really cool. I'd love to do some of that stuff. So everyone keep an eye and ear open. And this is why you help support our shows, because there could be stuff down the road, right? So
yeah, the only way we're going to be able to produce even better content for you guys is with a little bit of support. Because if we don't have that support, then it's kind of hard to take the time to produce the extra content.
I'll accept the hand job. Anyone want to give me a hand job? I'm fucking kidding. Perhaps not attacking a person and simply observing him from afar is much more terrifying. I don't know. Okay. What would you rather? Someone watch you like all the time, or you get, I was like, okay, yeah. Okay. He watches you for a couple months. Just all the time, you just see him observing you and watching you, or you get attacked once and get like horrendously choked.
I'd rather get attacked than be watched all the time, because at least if you're getting choked, you at least like know what you're dealing with. When you're something just watching you from a distance, dude, it's like the psychological damage of you not knowing like what the intention of that fucking thing is. Like I'd rather be physically harmed than mentally harmed over a long period of time.
Hand on your dick though when he's choking you, be like, keep going.
Just choke harder. Come on.
Come on. This sucks, man. I hate my trachea. I don't like I've known people that are into that. I don't get it. It's not my thing. If you want to do that shit, are people
actually into that, or do they just pretend like they're into it so that it's a back way that the Illuminati can kill your ass?
Fucking like that shit. I wasn't with her. I just heard about her stuff, and her friend was telling me about it, that she was into that stuff. And the thing is, I'm sure there is, because it's the dominance thing. And you know, Anton says don't yuck somebody's yum, which is a weird saying, but like don't like people have kinks. I think some are definitely very unhealthy, but some, you know, sex is healthy as long as it's done in a consensual way. But I knew a chick that tried to get high from choking herself, like with a noose, like, you know, like that. You've ever seen World's Greatest Dad? If anyone wants to see it, it's a very sad Robin Williams movie where he finds his son dead after his son, as an audio asphyxiated himself. I knew a chick that did that to try to get high, and she died. Like she did. I was like 13, 14. She died. It's just like
you want to get the same high. It's just as dumb, but go do some fucking whippets. It's gonna do the same thing. It's taking away oxygen to your brain. That's what's getting you high, man.
So stupid, man.
You'll probably still die off of doing whippets, but at least there's less of a chance of you just straight fucking.
So I got this for my computer. And I'm gonna huff it right now. No, I'm kidding. But it's like those dust things, and it was in a locked cabinet. And I was talking to the kid. He's like, "I'll just walk you to the front." And there was some young dude, and I was wearing a "Fuck Trudeau" sweater, and they were all like, "I like your sweater." Like a bunch of people from Canadian Tire, and like 4 of them were like, "I like your sweater." And I was like, "Don't worry, I'm not gonna huff this thing." And he was like, "Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people actually probably are doing that shit."
Dude, I've even seen that they add the stupidest shit. Bitter flavoring and shit to it because they're so worried about people doing that shit.
Oh, man, people do anything to get high to escape reality. So he's just observing you, especially since many people insist the Hat Man has a solid form, unlike other shadow people, where it's just like he seems more solid, which it would be weird. And while shadow people tend to just disappear when it's time for them to leave, the Hat Man has been seen floating above the ground or walking around. Fucking weird. So in many cases, the Hat Man seems to be hanging around areas where negative emotions are taking place, such as a household that has experienced some maybe domestic abuse, fighting, or depressed family members. Some people believe that the Hat Man is a demon sent to bring those who are about to die to hell. Or others thinks he is demonic, but like we were saying, that if he's just some sort of death figure, and he's like, "Time's up, motherfucker! Stop being depressed because I'm coming to get you. If you don't stop being depressed, guess where you're going." But hell, I truly gonna say this. I don't think hell exists. I think dark dimensions beyond this, low frequency dimensions exist. But even some of my Christian buddies don't believe in hell because it's not in the Bible. That was created through like the idea, like paintings, like Hieronymus Bosch and all these other dudes.
Yeah, and then the whole like construct about there being like the multiple layers of hell was all brought to fruition through the Divine Comedy. Like it was nowhere
Yeah.
like biblically; it was literally written as an epic poem, essentially.
Yeah, and then we're gonna do a hell series eventually. It's gonna be like we're debating on doing it all in kind of 1 month or 2 months, but we might break it up. But we're talking about everything to do with hell, from even like Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan. But it's gonna be all individual episodes. Just because I'm fascinated, I want to know more. But I have Hieronymus Bosch's paintings and stuff like that. I want to get a big version of the earthly realm or whatever it is, where it shows the duality between like heaven and hell and earth, and how earth is overpopulated, and then hell's got the weirdest imagery, like a scissor with like ears, an ear with like a scissor through it, and some weird fish monster eating a kid and stuff. Like, you've seen that, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, dude, I wanted to get one of those paintings that has the super detailed version of Dante's multiple layers of
Yeah.
hell. That shit's pretty fucking twisted when you start looking at the fine details of that.
I have the
too.
Hieronymus Bosch one somewhere. I have to put it up eventually, but it's like his depiction of hell, not the earthly realm one, but there's a different one. So Heidi Hollis may be able to back up that story. A German soldier told her about witnessing the Hat Man, asking who he was, and being told Scratch, an old nickname for the devil. Hollis also recounted the story of a suicidal man who woke up to find himself in the hospital. Excuse me. And the
Ooh,
Hat
that was a good
Man,
one.
the Hat Man close by. It's how the podcast used to be when me and Billy used to consistently drink beer. And it was like, I'm always the main host kind of controlling things. And it's just like, yeah, beer's not the choice. It's not the choice, bro. According to the story, the Hat Man quickly disappeared after the man woke up, but not before saying,
I almost had you.
"So I almost had you." That's fucking weird. What do you think about that? You think that like that? You think it's possible? It's some sort of being trying to drag you to a darker dimension because you're close to that you know?
I mean, I could definitely see it. I've even kind of created my own. I don't know. There might be other people that talk about it too, but I've kind of came to this like realization that shadow people may be something that comes from a place called like the void, or like the void dimension. So I mean, it could be like essentially like a dark, formless, all black fucking dimension.
Yeah.
Which could almost be like a hell if you drag somebody into it. I mean, essentially. And
Yeah.
maybe like the
Yeah,
intention is maybe they are dragging people into it because maybe they have some kind of thought in the back of their mind that maybe they'll start giving the void form. I don't fucking know.
I think that too, because I've read numerous stuff and looked at and listened to many coast to coast episodes and all this stuff about like the astral world, and how I always remember Insidious when they did it, and I was like, it's pretty good. Like it's good from what I've heard about what the astral world is like. I always heard this story about somebody, like this person dying. And I've heard this numerous times through different like books and interviews and Project Camelot and like all those kind of shows before podcasting actually really existed as it is today, like radio shows that talked about conspiracies. And I always heard that like they're in the astral world, when people don't know that they're dead, or they weren't ascending to a higher level, they get stuck in this duality of almost like purgatory, but it's like, it looks like Earth, but it's like darker. And like people walk for like miles until they find a house. And supposedly this one dude found this house, and it was just full of people like doing crazy drugs and just bad negative energy and behavior, like just in like just self and
Maybe that's the intention, though, is that if they are some type of energy vampires, maybe there is a void dimension, but in between our dimension and their dimension, there's this in-between dimension where it's half dark, half ours, and they have people essentially just sit in this almost like purgatory dimension so that they can just harvest fucking energy.
Their energy.
Oh, and man, they don't die because they're in this in-between dimension. So it's like they can't die because it's not like a physical reality. So in turn, it's just having like an endless power source if they drag people into this
kind of honestly makes sense to me. Like that makes sense that kind of reality could exist for, especially for the people that like I've heard tons of stuff about psychics, or people seeing into their past lives, or the people that are connected to, and having somebody that they're close to where they don't know they're dead and they like sit in this purgatory and walk around and whoa. I think
that's why you need to elevate your vibration, because otherwise if you don't elevate it enough, you'll get stuck in these in-between dimensions.
Yeah, I do think that mushrooms have changed that for me. Is that I think if I like me and Billy for the documentary used the Ouija board in the graveyard, it's slow to get the energy going. So we just kept thinking like, oh, we'll just pick a new spot, but you have to sit there and really let whatever is around kind of come forward. It did tell us to die. So, and then I was like, Billy, you scared? And he's like, no. And I'm like, look a little scared there, bro. You look a little scared.
You scared, bro? You scared?
Yeah. So that's weird because I think that's quite possible. I think it's quite possible there's all sorts of different dimensions, especially ones where they could just be used to harvest people that are not as aware, like sleepy sheep that like they'll go there because they don't know what the fuck is going on. Antifa, everyone that aligns with Antifa, they're going there.
I mean, it almost makes you wonder too, because they always seem to hang around people who have just had sleep paralysis. I wonder if their intention possibly is to almost like throw people into that area so that they can take their form. And if they ever did succeed in this, you'd never know, because that person would never talk about their story ever again. So like this could be all around us, dude. And of course, these shadow people are never going to give up their position. So like we would never know if they are taking people's forms or taking people's vessels and locking them in this in-between dimension.
There's a good Instagram. I wish I could shout it out. Unforbidding Truth or something. I followed this guy for a long time. I feel like he followed me and I followed him by this is like years and years ago. And it's a private account, but he posts really good videos, and he just posted one about like energies, and it looked like it was a security camera of a guy walking, and then you see this, and this guy's walking and this other guy's walking in the other direction, and then you see the shadow thing go from the one guy to the other guy, and you see the one guy stop, and it kind of like he kind of like jolts and stands there for a sec, looks around, and then keeps walking. And like his caption was like, "Be careful of use your God armor," is how he said, to protect yourself, because there's energies all around us. Be careful. He's like, "Be careful who you sleep with, who you talk to." And I've seen enough in my lifetime to know that this stuff exists.
Talk about some crazy shit, dude, that I just thought about. So the Egyptians believed that when you died, there was like two versions of your soul. There was a soul that remained here, which was like the shadow version of your soul. And then there was like your consciousness that would like go into like the heavenly realm, for lack of a better term for it. But if that is the case, and you do have these two possible forms, you talk about how, there's different dimensions and we don't understand the dimension that's below us. What if it's literally right fucking in front of us, but we've never taken the time to realize it? That we talk about how like, we're three-dimensional, we're whatever, and the next dimension below us would be a two-dimensional dimension, so everything would be flat. What if that two-dimensional dimension is literally right here? These shadow people, all of our shadows, all of this is literally that two-dimensional dimension. And again, we're just not aware of it because we don't know how to interact with it, because we don't understand these concepts fully to be able to actually go back and interact with it. But they talk about how the dimension above controls the dimension below. And if that's the case, then, I mean, essentially every time you're moving that shadow. So you are controlling that dimension that's below you. And when somebody passes away and that thing is no longer tied to that person in the dimension higher that's controlling it, then eventually it essentially can go rogue. And that may be what all these different shadow people are, or like the Egyptians thought, when somebody dies, that shadow version of yourself still stays here, but when it doesn't have anything controlling it, then it just goes rogue and does whatever the fuck it wants. And
what a wild thought too. And it will obviously like everything, it's like a spider web. Everything connects in some sort of way. Dot connecting, as David Icke would say, or whatever, right? Is like, I do think it would be worth doing a kind of deep dive into Egyptian folklore especially with you, because I think we would both really enjoy that type of episode. Maybe doing it live. We'll figure it out. But like, I got the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I'm trying to fucking read David Icke's massive book right now.
I can't reach it, but I got it sitting up here on this shelf too.
I want to read it all the way through, like take a couple notes, and then just discuss the Book of the Dead as an episode also, because I'm fascinated by that stuff. If it holds any truth or not, but. So people can usually feel when they're being watched, and a gaze from the Hat Man is no exception. Many also have noted a very dark energy emitting from him. It said they immediately knew they was extremely evil and very likely to wanting to kill them. Some get the feeling the Hat Man is enjoying their fear and actually feeding off it. Yes. It is possible, however, that since people who witness the Hat Man, men, I guess, are usually already in fearful, angry, or other emotionally charged state, thanks to whatever negative thing is going on in their life, they associate the Hat Man with their negative feelings because he appears in so many different situations, occasionally to several people in the same family, which is weird. There isn't a clear explanation if he's truly evil or why he appears to so many people. It would be weird to have like a generational thing. It's like my great grandpappy used to talk about the Shadow Man to me when he was cleaning his shotgun, thinking about killing himself. Sorry, that got really negative.
Dude, it makes you wonder though if it is kind of like what I was saying, that it might be something that's like attached to people that aren't existing on the planet anymore.
Yeah,
you have like the Hat Man, which is like an older era hat, right? So what if like 20 years in the future, when our generation starts passing away, the Hat Man phenomenon switches to, these fucking build hats?
That'd be so the new era hats. That'd be so fucking funny. I'm fucking walking around fucking with people in the shadow world.
All the shadow men, they're fucking horrified at people wearing baseball hats.
That's fucking funny. Because who knows? Because if that is a type of, if it's like, I don't know. It's hard to explain what this guy even is, because the hat thing, having just some sort of shadowy figure, you could attribute it to anything. Like just the thing that I saw, just kind of like this, essentially, close enough to it, but almost with like, I'm not gonna lie, like long fingers with nails, like that thing from Insidious. And this is before the Insidious. Like I want to make that very clear.
Have you ever seen Jack Frost from the Mighty Boosh? Because that's the only image I'm getting in my head.
What Mighty Boosh?
Ever heard of the show The Mighty Boosh?
No, what the fuck is that?
Oh my god, you gotta look that shit up. It's just this weird UK show, but they make these like weird ass characters, and there's like a Jack Frost character in this like Arctic episode, and he pretty much is like an all black morph suit looking figure with like long nails, and he comes in, he's all fucking
that's probably what I saw. It's probably him. That's fucking weird. But like the hat thing is always just a weird, who is this guy, or is he an interdimensional being? Is it one person that preys on fear? He exists in the same realm as maybe some of the darker energies, like the reptilians or whatever you may have it. But in 2001, the subject of shadow people was first introduced in the mainstream media via Coast to Coast AM. I used to listen to that shit all the time when I was a teenager. After the broadcast, many people sent in drawings of what they had seen and shared stories about their experiences with shadow people. Author and strange encounter enthusiast Heidi Hollis noted in 2008 that there was a commonly seen shadow person she named the Hat Man. And people all over the world claimed to have been visited by him as well. So this Heidi Hollis girl coined it on Coast to Coast, and then obviously got in the social conscious. People start talking about it. No one expected so many people to have experiences with the Hat Man or shadow people, but similarities of these people's stories have been given a creepy dark man a lot of popularity and more credibility for a lot of people. You can find stories all over the internet of people who have encountered him, and one person started a website specifically for collecting tales about the Hat Man. And we're gonna get in. I think I have like one or two. Yeah, I have one or two experiences that we'll get into very soon about people's experiences with the Hat Man. But it is weird because, like, if you had no one that talks about it, right? Like, especially some guy like in an African village, or I don't know how huge here coast to coast, but like it's like everyone thinks they're crazy, right? They see this weird shadow thing, they brush it off, they see it once or twice, or who knows how many times, right? And they're like, oh, fucking weird. Like, that's so weird. Like, I don't even want to tell anyone because they're gonna think I'm crazy. And then you hear on Coast to Coast, and you're like, whoa, like these people were also sharing the same experiences as me. And then like people were saying in drawings and stuff of what they like the image that they saw in their head, which I'm decently good at drawing. I can draw fairly well. I might try to like depict in a couple of drawings of what I saw for fun for the show. Because I've never done that, but I think it'd be interesting because I could probably put it on paper. But wouldn't that be weird? Because then you have the validity of like somebody else sharing that same experience, you know?
I mean, it's kind of like a toss up though, because it's either one, nobody wanted to talk about it because you sound, before you have some type
Crazy.
of context, you sound kind of crazy saying that there's like a shadow following you, you know what I mean? But then on the other side of it too, it's like people may be experiencing it or thinking they're experiencing it because it's now something that's existing in their head. And so now when they have a weird experience, they just try to connect it and rationalize it with something. Or you can even get
Yeah.
into the whole idea that, you know, essentially when it's the what's the word I'm looking for? When a bunch of people believe in something and it brings it into fruition.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
brain
yeah.
farting on the name.
I know what you're talking about. I can't, but it's like the so subconscious and like them pushing this and then it happening in real life. I know what you're talking. I can't think of the word either.
Which also in a weird way proves that reality is manipulatable.
It's malleable. I
Malleable,
do
yeah, that's
believe
a better
that.
word.
And the thing is too is like I always said this. Like I want success with this show. I've always wanted that. Like I started this out of nowhere and did it before I even knew any podcasters, knew anyone that was doing this from, especially with the area that I was from. And I was like already talking about all of this stuff with my friends. So I was like, I already have mics from creating music. Let me just put a mic in front of me and Billy and fucking see what happens, right? And we would used to get like obnoxiously wasted and then talking about things like aliens and stuff like that. And now I put it out there. They're like, you know, and I do believe in this physical reality. Things are slowed down to an extent where in the fourth dimension, you know, I always say this, you think about an apple appears, you kind of, it can come to you in seconds of what you're creating and manifesting in reality. And I suppose that's why the reptilians use us because they can't create anything. They can only manipulate. So I do put it out there all the time. And it's like, it might take years for me to get, for anyone out there to get, for their dreams to come true. It might take a long time for your dreams to come true because we're in this physical reality that's slowing down. But I do believe in manifesting your thoughts and your reality is very possible.
I mean, it may require that the higher dimensional thing wants to create something within your reality because it could be the same for us going into lower dimensions where it's like, you know, you're drawing an apple and you're not thinking anything of it. You're just drawing something on a piece of paper, but that could be a whole other dimension. And now you just created something in that other dimension. And now it's brought into existence through your hands. You can't manipulate your own reality,
right?
but you can manipulate the one below you. And that's what it requires is that if you want anything to happen in our reality, it's almost like you have to be speaking. And that could be where like the manifesting comes from. It could be like a psychic principle that like, you know, you're almost projecting this idea that you want something done to the higher dimensional being. So in turn, they end up giving it to you. You know what I mean? Well, it's almost like when you're doing a drawing and you're just like, this drawing needs this. And just, it pops into your head that it needs it. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily feel like your thought. It may be because you're actually manipulating a lower dimension without even realizing it. And in turn, they're projecting their thoughts into your head without you realizing it.
That's a wild thought. Cause it's like that Futurama episode where they go in the second dimension and they like step over each other and stuff like that. Cause it's just 2D. And then they're like, and they're like 3D. How is that possible? There's so many things that Futurama has predicted that have come true. The suicide booths, they're fucking doing that now. Like there's so many things that are like, the people that create The Simpsons, Futurama,
what's next? Robosexuals?
Yeah, Robo it's coming. The real sex dolls in China. So
I mean, I was gonna say, in all fairness, we kind of do already have that.
Yeah, it's already coming, man. Because they killed off all their women in China, and I think Japan didn't do that. It's just China. So the men are lonely. But like they've coined so many things that are like. It's kind of crazy. Matt Grogan or whatever that guy's name is. I've heard that he's a fucking Freemason, and that
dude. Even how the ship works, where the ship doesn't actually move, it moves reality around it, and it uses black matter to move reality around it. Because it was crazy, dude. I remember this one episode they were talking about how like Fry's like, how does the ship move so fast? How is it able to do this? How is it able to do that? And it's like, oh, the ship never moves. It stays in one location. It moves reality around the ship. Like,
it's just wild. So for everyone that like is interested in sleep paralysis, I do implore you. We some of the older episodes of Strange Wands, a lot of that series is eventually going to Patreon. So our sleep paralysis episode is on Patreon now and available. So we talk an hour about what sleep paralysis is. So I don't want to get into a whole episode about that, but it's like people can experience weird things, hallucinations. Scientists have actually coined this. It's like a thing in your REM sleep, in the cycle of REM sleep. It's harmless supposedly and all this stuff. And people see supposedly hallucinations and they think they're awake. But although the Hat Man can seem to appear at any time of day in any location, but the encounters of people we encounter have taken places in bedrooms, a large amount of sightings occurring in basements. Well, this isn't clear why this is the case isn't clear, but many basements are dark and scary to begin with. Makes sense, I guess, considering many encounters with the Hat Man take place when a person is visited or about to go to sleep and they just woken up and then they get the sense. That's why you can supposedly lucid dream. Something that's coming up for the Patreon, stuff like that, is one of my buddies. I didn't know he had this experience. It'll go on the mainstream. It'll go onto the main network for like a week or two to try and draw people into the Patreon. And then he told me a story about like his sleep paralysis experience, and it's wild. Like he lucid dreamed. And then he heard this like doorbell. He was dating like a Wiccan at the time. And this doorbell kept ringing. It kept getting closer and closer and closer. And then while he was in a lucid dream, he finally, like he tried this once or twice. He was dating this Wiccan that told him how to do it. He lifted over his body, looked back, saw himself. And then he kept hearing this doorbell and it got closer, closer, this ringing sound. And then supposedly in the real world, his dad opened the door. Was like, who the fuck is at the door? Opened the door. Nobody was there. My buddy Brett woke up and was like, what the fuck? And he told his Wiccan, his girlfriend that was a Wiccan, her mother taught her all this stuff. He talked to her mother about it, and her mother's like, you didn't open the door, did you, in the astral world, did you? And she's like, no. Or he's like, no, I didn't. Like, he's like, I woke up before, I would even go towards the door. And my dad opened the door in the physical world. And then she's like, oh, good, because something was trying to get it. They were trying to get into your body or into your reality, and it was trying to use you as a conduit. And if you were to open that door, you would have welcomed something in to your reality.
Yep,
isn't that fucking scary, dude?
It's not even like a verbal, like, yes, you may enter. Like, they can manipulate through that shit.
They were supposed to be just ringing the doorbell, and his dad heard it in the physical fucking reality.
Dude, I have connections with shit like that too. When I talked about like my experiences that I went through when I was like a teenager and a kid, I would purposely test this shit because I would like project and I'd be in different places, and sometimes I'd be at like my friends' houses and shit, and I'd freak him out the next day, dude, because I'd be like, this is how you were sleeping. You had this sitting on your end table. It was just weird shit, dude. It would always fucking line up, and I did.
I've heard tons of stories about that stuff, dude. Tons of stories where someone, like, I've always said the story where I think it was on Coast to Coast, wherever I read it, where the guy like was talking to his friend in Germany, and then astral projected and went to Germany and saw what his friend was doing, and he was like, bro, were you doing this? And his friend's like, how the fuck did you know that? How did you know that? That's why we should do, like, this is like definitely people where there's probably some more stuff that will be coming soon with me and Shane and stuff that we have ideas for. But like, even, it's fun to do stuff for the Patreon, do some rant episodes so people are kind of pushed towards supporting, but we definitely should do a nice big live special rant episode, and then we'll put it on the main waves, because I think it'd be fun.
Oh, I'm fucking down. I got a lot of rants that are banked up in my head.
Fuck yeah, let's do that. We'll exit all of this shit, we'll like be able to vent. So it is weird. So lots of witnesses have met the Hat Man when they were children, and they kept the stories to themselves for many years, either because they didn't want to be thought as crazy, or they didn't rationally believe the stories themselves. So kind of to bring this to a close, I got two stories, which, let's see, I'll read out the stories, and in post-production on the audio side, I'll maybe put some creepy music in the background. Are you ready? So let's get into it. I saw him at 18 years old in my room after a particularly traumatic experience. I woke up at an incredibly late hour, probably 2 or 3 incredibly late. I didn't check, but something was off. I was speaking in a language I've never heard. I was speaking to what only can be described as a little girl, a young girl, or someone with that type of body of a young girl, perhaps 14 in a dress. I couldn't make her out her features, but I could make out her eyes and her mouth, which could only be described as sharp looking, like a human piranha or something. She was whispering something in my ear. I'm playing Harry Potter, the game. It's a lot of fun. I don't really play video games that often, but man, that shit's fun. So I've been watching all the movies, and when I'm on, I just finished the second movie when he speaks parcel tongue and shit. I was like, wow, I haven't seen these in a long time. Still good. I don't even give a shit. Like, I like those movies. I will admit it. They're fun. Do you like Harry Potter?
I read the books when I was a teenager.
So did I. I read them when I was like,
I haven't watched or done anything with it in my adult years, but
bro, the game is fucking too fun, man. I don't even know how they made this game so fun. You can just do whatever the fuck you want. You can fly around. I just got my broom, and it's just like I don't beat video games or play video games that often, because I feel like there's always something else I could be doing. I could be editing the show, doing stuff on this side, hanging out with my fiance or whatever, right? There's so many other things I'd rather be doing. I think if you play video games all the time, you're probably depressed. But this shit is fun. I just get ripped as fuck and play this.
I do my my time waster games and shit like that, like fucking Mario Kart, all that stuff you don't get like too fucking hooked in, because
that's fun.
I mean, we talk out about all this shit all the time, dude. You start letting yourself get too involved in a virtual reality, then it's just gonna cause problems in the future. But
100%, Mario sounds so much fun. I wish I could play Mario.
So fucking dude, you gotta be tripping on some mushrooms and you
you
gotta
come
up while playing Mario Kart, dude. There's one time that I was coming up on acid while playing Mario Kart.
That's so fun.
And it was like, it hit, dude, and the whole game went into like hyperspeed. It was the craziest fucking shit. I couldn't even play the game anymore.
That sounds really fun. I really want to do that. So
go play the fucking Rainbow Roads on mushrooms, bro. It'll be one of the craziest things you've ever experienced.
And I was replying in this strange language. My voice is going to change now, but I wasn't just, it wasn't just the shadow girl. My bed was surrounded by tall, dark figures, which I could not make out their features. And perhaps 4 of them, not counting the girl, they sat motionless and watched me. But most striking figure was the tall man with the wide brim hat standing in the corner of my room. I could feel as if he assumed, no more assumed than the others. Each time the girl whispered in my ear, I would let out a reply of which I didn't even understand, and the man in the hat would be delighted. You think Jesus, people on Reddit, because it's from Reddit. You'd think that one would be scared of this sort of encounter, but it felt familiar. Felt rather warm in my panties. The panties thing is not real. As I was surrounded by old friends or family, which is a weird one. I forgot to add I was researching this encounter and came across a startling similar account. The person had almost identical experience mine, talking in another language. And the little girl was yelling in my ear, opposed to whispering, and very strange. So weird. That's so weird. It's fucking whatever weird that person experienced. If that's true at all, you know, it's always hard to, especially I don't have Reddit. We're eventually going to create a Reddit for Strange Who Podcast to like have uncensored conversations and stuff like that. But Reddit is fucked.
Slowly dying, like most social media sites.
Well, it's full of a bunch of crazy Antifa fucks and like weirdos and like radicalized teenagers, because they're radicalizing every single fucking person that they can in order to manipulate the reality that we live in. We have a fan. You know, you ever seen Tenacious D?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, you know the one fan that always does this?
Yeah.
We have one fan, his name is Dutch, and he's always in the chat no matter what the fuck we're doing. And he was like, fuck yeah, Harry Potter. So fucking goddamn, man. So we'll bring it on close to this, and then we'll get into a couple theories to end this on. But there is possibilities that we will probably maybe for Patreon or something like that, where we'll actually get a bunch of stories of like Shadow People or the Hat Man, and we'll maybe just shoot them off and discuss them because there's a lot of them. Like for
I got a
sure.
lot of really good content in this book too, A Walk in the Shadows.
Oh
that
yeah,
we
if you just
cover as far as
highlight some of that shit, like that's not a bad idea for doing something off the cuff or a live special where we like go very deep into the idea of what shadow people are. Because I thought the Hat Man kind of deserved his own episode. But there are many different theories regarding what shadow people actually are, why humans see them, and the Hat Man may have, a similar explanation. Perhaps he's interdimensional, visiting humanity from another dimension, and only partially visible since he is on a different vibration than we are, as we kind of alluded to. He could also be an astral projection, the shadow of a person who is currently traveling out of their own human body. Or that'd be fucking wild if it's one of like the evil elites or some shit like that. Like people that like.
What if it's a shadow projection of a Men in Black?
Whoa, yeah. Because
that's all I can see when I see the fucking hat. It just looks like a Men in Black. And maybe when they try to project a physical form, it looks like shit, and that's where you get the awkward, weird walking MIBs, but this is their true form.
Shout out my podcast, because I finally wrote out my Men in Black episode. It's been sitting for a while, but I like took all day, like hours, to like put everything together and make sure it was what it needs to be for Strange Brew. So a demon is certainly a possibility based on all the negative feelings people feel around him. Other theories about the Hat Man, it actually includes aliens, time travelers, and ghosts, time travelers and ghosts, as well as just the wild imagination of the witnesses. Currently, there is no quotations scientific methods to test any of these ideas. So yeah, we trust the science. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, right.
Always trust the science. That's what we were told, right? You gotta trust the science.
All hail Fauci. Isn't that guy in prison yet? Or he should be.
All hail the almighty Fauci.
So now the Hat Man remains a very creepy mystery. So what do you think?
Verbally doing it, you have a fucking button. It's great.
I know. I used to always do it. That's why I had to get it, because Billy would always be like, bah, bah, bah. And I'm like, yeah, we need to actually have this fucking shit. What do you think? You think people are crazy?
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Just from the perspective that I come from and have my own experiences, anybody experiencing shadow people, in my opinion, you are not crazy. You are just probably slightly elevated as far as your vibrational frequency goes to be able to see these things, or you're a little bit lower where you're a target for these things.
You are one of the news.
Just kidding. No, I'm on the same level as you, is that I do think that I've experienced it myself, and I'm telling you, it changed my life forever. And the thing is, I always wanted some UFO to come abduct me. And I've said this before on the show, that I always looked up the stars, and I was smoking cigarettes and in my own toxic head and drinking and reading all the time, researching. I've been doing this shit for a very long time. I think same as you. So I was always like, oh, I'm special. There's aliens watching over me. I want to see proof of this. But it showed me proof of different dimensions in a different way, a much more scary and frightening way. But it showed me that this reality is not as physical as we think it is at all, in any way.
There's layers to the shit, like literal layers on top of layers that are existing all in the same spot at once, as hard as that is for a lot of people to fathom.
There's theories that quantum physics that says that 600, and yeah, quantum physics can be disproved, but so can a lot of things. But there's theories that there's 600 different dimensions corresponding with Earth at the exact same time. So that means as we're having this conversation, there's somebody else having the same conversation, or us having this conversation, but the conversation didn't go the way that it's going now. Like, it's fucking wild. Like, it just layers upon layers of shit.
In another dimension, you're in my studio and I'm in your studio.
Yeah,
and everything's exactly the same other than that.
That's fucking wild. Even that shit, dude. Like, there's so many like different possibilities, and that's what I'm like. I've always said this. Like, I love talking about this stuff. As I get older, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to trust. I've never trusted anything to begin with. So as I get older, I'm just trying to be content, live in the reality I can be, eventually, be a good father, and make sure my kid has not the same thought process, but understands that everything around him is most likely a lie, or her, or whatever. Like, not that's never going to happen. But that that like, it's, you got to think through things, and you got to, you got to reality is you people like grasp reality. What is reality? You know, people don't know what reality is because I just did a video, just a quote of like, it takes brainwashing one generation to brainwash a population into convincing that reality doesn't exist. And you can see that now is that it's very easy to manipulate people and convince them that what physical reality we have here doesn't exist in the way they think it does. And then it caters to all this other bullshit that, you know, people in power are promoting or propagating.
I mean, shit, dude, all it takes is a little bit of brainwashing for people to believe that virtual reality is real reality, and the
Yeah.
reality that we're in right now isn't actually real reality. So everybody will want to be in the virtual reality because that is the reality that you are able to manipulate.
That's where this is going. I want to do a live show just like free for all talking about AI and virtual reality because I really do believe that I've always said this. If this physical reality could be a simulation. Fuck flat Earth and all that other crap. And we haven't even done a simulation theory episode, which will come
that
down
could
the
even
road.
bounce into that. I've even said too, if we are in some type of organic simulation or virtual reality, the map could have been updated. Where back a long time ago, when people were talking about all of these ideas about flat Earth, maybe the Earth was flat because that was the original map, and the map has since been updated.
100%.
And even going into like rendering shit, dude, you can see a planet from a distance. Just like you can see like something on the other side of the map in a video game, but it isn't rendered until you're physically in front of it.
Do you want to do that? Do you want to do the simulation theory with maybe me and Billy sometime?
Oh, fucking down 100%.
Oh, let's do that. That'd be a lot of fun. Because we'll bring that to a close, but I really think that like I really want to get in that whole talk, and maybe we'll go live for it or whatever. Is the whole simulation theory, because I've always said that they'll eventually be able to create a virtual reality that is real as this: taste, touch, feel, everything. And then you won't be able to discern what is reality. And of course, like, and this is why I've gotten like in Tim Pool's fucking show, because they talk about stuff like this and it's fun off the cuff. And, you know, they're kind of sitting in the middle of like, hey, shit's getting fucking crazy. And they were just talking about how fucking that it's eventually people are just going to be used to it. And it's like, what would you rather have? The virtual reality where you're a billionaire and you have all the chicks and it's just fake. Or the reality where you're sitting in your mom's basement, you can't afford to eat. You know what I mean? And that's where people are going to live in, dude.
Bro, what if we're already in this shit? Because we talk about how there's been advanced cultures in the past. What if at some point there's already virtual reality? Everybody agreed to go in this virtual reality because it was a safer place to be. And all of us are literally existing in a computer in a cave on a destroyed planet.
You know, fuck that be. I hope that mushrooms breaks that for me. All of a sudden, I'm like fucking sketching out on the couch, it's fucking foaming at the mouth, and then I see all reality. Like Plato's cave. That's wild, honestly, and I really enjoyed this. I do think it is merited that me and you start producing more content together, because I think as the more we get to know each other, the more that it's like how me and Aaron are, and that's why I think you're such a good fit for kind of like. You know, I know you're doing your own thing and stuff like that, but we could like you're part of to me, you're part of the Host Head family. You're part of like what I would like to create and go forward and connect with people that I genuinely and friends with.
Well, I feel the same, my friend. And as far as I'm concerned, I guess you could say inquirer. I don't really have like a set name for like my group.
Open minds, right? We're all open-minded.
Exactly. Part of the OMM crew.
So, I'll show my stuff first. Obviously, if you're listening on Inquiries of Reality, you can find me at Strange Root Podcast and all platforms. I always like push people kind of for the YouTube while it's there to go subscribe to the YouTube. You get to watch content like this and many other things that are a lot of fun. And, you know, for people on my side, you know, Patreon is the best way to support us. The new merch design is out on the website. I literally, like, my taxes came in. I was like, for once, I'm not paying out the ass for my taxes. I got some money back. So I bought like a new flag of the new design, a shirt, a sweater, a cup, like so many things. So I was like, it's cool. I'll pass it out to my kid eventually. He'll be like, check this shit out. But yeah, you know, everybody love everybody supporting both of these shows. You know, I would love you to do that, and I'd appreciate it.
And if anybody wants to come and find me, I do multiple shows. So I just call everything Open Minds Media. So if you guys want to find Inquiries About Reality, Bizarre Encounters, all the shit that I do, go and check out Open Minds Media. If you want to check out the link tree, it's LANKTR _E.
I'll leave it in the link for the host heads too. So if people want to go check that shit out,
even better. Open_Minds_Media, just so I can finish that off. But yeah. Come and find all my shit through that.
Yeah, and you guys, I'll make sure the links are at the bottom of the show so people will have that. And me and Shane have been talking for a while about really trying to even do a YouTube show, even if it's a once a month kind of live thing where we kind of just like shoot the shit, which I think eventually will come down the road. But I
Hint
think
at the awesome name, Strange Reality. I just want to drop that because I really dig that name still.
so do I, because now we're doing for the Patreon Strange Stogies, where me and my buddies all smoke cigars and talked about. I just brought up a bunch of like articles about like all weird shit, like werewolves and anything I could find. Right, just quick off the cuff. And
Please tell me you guys are drinking brandy the whole time and you have a
we were
button that
drinking
says,
whiskey.
Bully.
Yeah, we were drinking whiskey, smoking. My buddy smokes these cigars called Asylums, and I was like, he's like, you know why they call them Asylums? And I was like, I don't know why. He's like, because it feels like you're stuck in it all day. It's just like, it's just such a huge cigar. It looks like a cock. It literally looks like as big as like a cock. And I'm like, why do you need to smoke that shit, man? I was like, I need one that like maybe lasts me half an hour at the most. I don't need 2 hours, 3 hours worth of smoking a fucking cigar.
Everybody's sitting here smoking a nice cigar. You're sitting here with a Black and Mild.
yeah. That's so funny. So you know, there's gonna be some new stuff coming down the road for everybody out there. So, you know, our whole motto at Strange Brew is everybody love everybody. So make sure you do that.
Yeah, go and do that.
I don't know if that's necessary anymore. Maybe we should hate more people. Just fucking kidding. All
Hate
right.
the people that deserve it. Love the people that deserve it.
Exactly.
Just leave it at that.
I agree. Stay
If they're
strange,
evil
fuckers.
elitist pedophiles, fuck them.
Yeah, I agree. Stay strange, fuckers.